This is Top Shop Podcast.
Shop Podcast.
Top Shop Podcast.
Podcast for automotive service business owners by Paul Donahue.
Hey, Top Shop Podcast listeners, got Josh Franulovic.
There you go.
Takes a while to get that one. Franulovic. He's got a shop, been in business over 10 years, and Anacortes, Washington. So anyway, I appreciate you taking your time to be on the show. We really want to get as many auto repair shop owners that have at least a decade of experience on the show as possible, because then you guys can share share your story. And speaking of sharing your story, how'd you get here? How'd you get into auto repair, and how'd you get to own a shop? Give us a little background there.
Yeah, I guess started off first time I guess both my parents drove pretty cool muscle cars when I was a kid, so I always had people, gear heads coming up to us saying hi, whatever. My mom had a 65 fastback Mustang, and my dad had a 69 Z28 Camaro. So they were always tinkering in the garage with them, not too much, but grew up, around cars and motorcycles and working on tinkering with stuff. And then I guess when I got into cars I was 16 years old. I had a 1988 BMW 325 IS, and the engine seized on the way to school one day. Didn't have money at the time. My dad's family was a fishing family, so I went up fishing with him in Alaska for the summer, paid a guy in town to rebuild the engine, and I didn't have all the money to pay a shop to remove and replace it. So I ended up going down in my parents' personal garage and, pulling the old engine out, putting the new engine in, and I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of like this, and I guess that was when I was 16, yeah, and then I went to college down in Santa Barbara. I was playing baseball at a community college down there. Knew I wanted to get into business management, but didn't really know what else I wanted to study. They had a really good automotive program down there, so it kind of just fell on my lap. The guy that his name was Tim Gillis. He was the lead instructor down there, professor, what you call. And he wrote all of the ASE books for pretty much all of the ASE certified books that people were studying. And he would donate back, I think it was like 10% or 15% of each book to the Santa Barbara City College automotive program. It was an amazing facility. We had a smog dyno, we had an engine rebuild shop, a machine shop, pretty much everything. And that was what really jump started, I guess, wanting to get into the industry. Got out of college, financially. I had a decent tool set, nothing really crazy. And I just jumped right back into the commercial fishing. And then I did the commercial fishing thing till I was 26. So, wow. The first time I went to Alaska, I was 16, and then I did it summer jobs up there, chasing salmon around, mostly Bristol Bay. But then once I got out of college, as a commercial fisherman, you're technically self-employed, so you got to hunt for work.
Right.
You find a good boat, and they fish the same season, same time of the season every year, so you can kind of link together, your schedule. And after, I had some good years, some bad years, and it was one bad year. I kind of thought like hourly. You never. That's what they say in the commercial fishing industry. You never want to equate out how many hours you're working per dollar.
Right.
So your hourly wage, and I did it one trip. We were fishing off the coast of Oregon. I was probably 22 or 23 years old. The year before I did it. Was great money. A month of work was about, I think take home was about $25,000.
Jeez.
So it was good. And then the next year, the price of black cod went down. The weather was just terrible. And there was one 10-day trip that we did, and we're working, 18, 19 hours a day. And it equated out to making like $2.50 an hour.
My gosh.
Yeah, and at that age, you're still pretty, robust, I guess. I was just
Right.
like, this isn't too bad, and then another bad season, and I ended up stop. I didn't travel to Alaska, and my brother and I co-owned a Dungeness crab operation outside of right out of Anacortes, which was October. You get a few parts of the season that you're closed down, but mostly it's about October to April. And then outside the season. I had a lot of off time, It's, when you're fishing, it's full on time, but then when you're at home, you got a lot of time on your hands. So I had bought the house I was renting was my mom's house. She had a two bay shop in there, pretty nice shop. I bought a lift and put it up there, and I got into I don't know if you're familiar with drifting. So kind of you're going around a track doing burnouts,
Sure.
wasting tires.
Right.
So I got into that in the off season, and I was always tinkering with my car. That same 325 IS I had was my first car. I ended up putting a bunch of money into it, turbocharging it, this, that, making it, a drift car, and it'd continually break and it
Of
ended
course.
up yeah, and then at I think I bought that lift when I was 21 or 20 21 22 and being the only person in my entire friend group with a lift, I instantly became the one to
Popular.
oh, very popular. That's what I tell people, if you want some car friends, something to do on the weekend, buy a
Buy a
car trailer.
lift.
Buy a lift and a car trailer because
Yes.
there's always someone that needs one, right? So I ended up, essentially I was working on people's cars, built a couple drift cars, on the side. Um, and then it was, one more bad season where, I was still, paying rent and stuff, but it was for how hard I was working commercially fishing. It just wasn't working out for me. So I ended up selling, my brother my half of the business, and then talking to my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend, I believe, when I started the business. Or no, we just got married, and we were looking to start a family. And we had bought a house, and we had a reconstruction loan. So I had a good like 8 month period where I didn't have to make a mortgage payment. And it was the perfect time just, jump in. I had a small client base, people's cars that I was just working on the side. And at that point, I was just like, I went to school to be an automotive tech. I never trained, or I trained, but I never worked under anyone. So I really didn't know what I was getting into. I just figured, small town, I never advertised. If I could put out quality work and just work by myself, keep my overhead really low, I should be able to, make a decent living and then be at home, and raise a family.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started, in a roundabout way. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's actually a pretty common story. A lot of people they kind of got into it indirectly, but then they found out that that's what they like doing. So you were basically looking for something that's more, consistent and secure for so you can, have a family and yeah,
yeah,
yeah. You can't
yeah.
go out fishing and just, not know whether you are going to be able to pay the bills or not. So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, and
yeah.
I reached out to a couple shops in town, and I was making right out of college, I was making pretty good money fishing, in comparison to, a technician. So I wanted to get my feet in the door. So I had reached out to a couple shop owners in town that had worked on my cars previously or I bought parts from, and a couple of them, were considering hiring me, but I didn't have any experience, So obviously, they wanted me to do like oil changes and stuff, and they didn't want
Hmm.
to pay me too much. So I never really got, and it would have been part time. I would have been working a month or two, and then going back to Alaska, and then a month, and then going to Oregon, because I was fishing all over the West Coast.
Right.
And then I ended up taking a part time job. I was welding aluminum docks. We built like some pretty high end docks for like marinas and
Hmm.
stuff. So I learned to aluminum weld pretty well, and
TIG
then
welding. Yeah.
yeah, we were MIG welding, TIG welding,
TIG.
and
Yeah.
then we built our own cleats for the docks. So I did some stainless TIG welding, a little bit of machining, not too much, but kind of incorporated that when I first started the business. I didn't have that much work, so I was building, or intercooler piping for turbo stuff, stainless exhaust systems, just kind of anything. So I opened up with a pretty wide array of skills, but
Hmm.
then as of now, I definitely honed into we don't do too much performance stuff anymore or custom stuff. It's pretty much, I got a client base with myself. I can barely keep up with the cars I have to work on. So.
Right. Yeah. How do you think the auto industry has changed in the last decade?
Well, when I started, I think I mean, just as a money thing, I think I started at $78 an hour. And now up
Hmm.
here, everyone in town, I think I'm about middle of the road and we're at 185 an hour. So
Hmm.
that's been a huge change. For me, I noticed efficiency is huge. I still have those older clients, friends, family, I was born and raised in Anacortes, so
Right. Okay.
there's people that stop by, and I'm by myself and they want to, chit chat. And it's, to a certain point, it's like, hey man, like I got all these things going on. I know it's your day off, this and that. But um, as far as change, yeah, I mean, it seems like it kind of went from being a mechanic to a, automotive technician. People were kind of respecting, I guess, a little bit more. When I
Right.
first started the business, I feel like you could, the cars that were still on the road were still pretty easy to maintain with a basic set of tools. Now, you have people, there's guys I know, my parents' friends that are very, mechanically savvy, I should say, that don't even want to touch the new cars
Right.
because they're scared to, turn on a scan tool or whatever. So that would be the main things. I mean, cost of repairs huge, and then technology is really advanced. Where the good techs, the good shops in town, I noticed still do continued training.
Hmm.
Definitely a huge thing. But when I went to ATE, I think that was where I had put my name in. How you guys found me? I'm
Hmm.
assuming, yeah, down in Seattle. And right when you get out of there, it's like, God, I wish I could take every single class there,
Right.
which it was like a 2 week long, training expo.
Right. Yeah. 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 So yeah, ATE. Any shop owners listening, you're in the Northwest area. If you're not familiar with ATE, look it up online. It's a small expo, but it's a really good one. It really is. So the training there that is fantastic. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've had with your shop? I guess from what I was hearing from you here, you just did anything in the beginning, but now you've got it honed down, staying away from that performance work and doing more of the brake jobs and the stuff that provides a steady, hey, here's the car comes in, get the job done, the car goes out, we get the cash. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like to go back on efficiency. Yeah, I started, my business was a performance-oriented business, so I was doing a lot of, I mean, not really expensive builds, but like some pretty off the wall stuff, or like engine swaps. Like I'm a BMW specialty guy. I started, all of my, I guess, prior to schooling, education, and research was all on 80s BMWs.
Hmm.
I still love those cars. I have, a few of them. But we were putting engines from like, newer M3s and the older 3 Series, stuff like that. Um, and I just noticed that like the amount of hours I was putting into it to create something I wanted people to look at and appreciate was I wasn't making, even barely half of book time, right?
Right.
And I talked to a few shop owners in town. They're kind of like, yeah, we used to do custom TIG welding too, but when we're really, yeah, when we're not busy, we'll maybe take something on like that, but we're not advertising it. Because you got to have a machine shop and be a fab shop to really be proficient in that. So
Right. Right.
yeah, like you said, I mean, now that I got my name out there and a clientele with enough cars to service where there do need brakes and basic maintenance. It's a lot, I guess better financially.
Sure.
I still like doing the performance stuff, but um, being a one man shop right now, I had built the business having one full time tech. I had two guys for, I don't know, probably on and off for the last like 4 years. But right now, we're actually expanding the shop. The shop's right now it's 946 square feet, and we're adding 2,400 square feet to it. So we're adding 3 bays, which is going to be huge. Bigger office, stuff like that. Lot more room. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, hoping to hire. I actually hired a technician recruiting company um, a few months ago, so I got a few pretty good leads of guys that are kind of waiting for the shop to be expanded, and then yeah, hopefully move a little bit higher up.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. So that's big. Three base shops can do, multi seven figures through a three base shop. Um, um, so you've figured out, hey, let me focus on the meat and potatoes repair work. You focused on that. You've got your um, hourly rate up to where it should be, competitive. So, are there any strategies that you have found most effective to retain loyal customers, or is it your small island that you live on that you're the guy, or
No, there's a couple other really good import shops.
okay,
I'm still probably, I mean, for like the BMW stuff, a lot of the shops that they'll try to diagnose or mess with something for an hour or 2 hours, and then they'll just end up calling me and say, "Hey, take it out to this guy."
yeah, yeah,
All the shops work together. I don't do my
okay,
shop's pretty small, so um, yeah, I mean, face to face. I right now, being a one man shop, I'm the one talking to the customer on the phone. They come in, they hand me their keys, they explain the problem. I'm doing all the work, selling the work, and then giving them the car. So I'm really accountable for everything that's going on. And a lot of, I think I call it a repair shop hesitancy, where there are people that jump from another shop and maybe they weren't treated how they thought they should, and then they come to you and, you just got to look them in the eye and tell them like, yeah, that sometimes cars just break, whether it's, the person that worked on it previously, you might have had three problems when you went in there and they fixed one. But, without advertising, it's just mainly what I've figured out is, honesty, being upfront. And, with, I guess, what's changed, I recently went over to Tech Metric. Well, I guess it's been about 3 years now. And the digital vehicle inspections is pretty big for me.
sure,
Not only, for transparency, but also like say, and a customer, with these BMWs, sometimes like a cooling system, is upwards of $2,000 on the new ones with the electric water pumps.
uh-huh,
Um, and when you're under the car, you see four other things wrong with it, oil leaks, this, that, and it's nice to be able to, divvy out all those things with a DVI just so they're on record, like, hey, we were going to do this cooling system now, but, as soon as you can schedule in, I would definitely prepare to fix this oil filter housing leak. If not, it's gonna, your belt's gonna absorb it and it's gonna roll your belt or whatever. So
right, yeah,
repeat like that. That stuff helps me a lot. It's a lot on my mind sometimes, but the more I do up front helps on the back side of things.
right.
Um, yeah.
So, yeah, because I looked at your reviews, you got good reviews. So, it's a lot of it, is just doing really good work and and satisfying the customer. It's a lot of it is not a lot of it's not rocket science. But then, there's a fast way to do a job and a right way to do a job, and that. So the shops
Yeah.
that do their best to do it the right way, those are the ones that get the loyal customers and the reviews coming back.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, and that's kind of how I got started. It's like, I never wanted to just pump out a bunch of work. I
mhm.
wanted to hold myself accountable for quality. And the techs that I have had, I know it's probably a different mindset than a dealer tech, but I've never rushed people. I don't like being rushed, so I don't
Mhm.
rush other people. There's a fine line between, slacking and maybe, quality, but I take my time on stuff. With experience, you gain, speed, but also, yeah, like that quality thing. I want a 5-star review. Every time someone leaves the shop, I want, I'm a people pleaser. I want their car to be as fixed as, whether I have to be transparent and say, hey, you came in here, you have four problems. Your car's not 100% fixed. It's not brand new. But I do want them to leave satisfied with the work that we did because, especially at the labor rate, that we're charging, it's there's a little bit of leeway, for, to maybe spend a little bit extra time cleaning the, a beauty cover or whatever, wiping something down that you're not getting paid for.
You had mentioned training before. What role do you believe that training and ongoing education, play in a shop's long-term success?
Oh man, I think it's huge. Like to go back on the efficiency thing, with
Mhm.
diagnostics, um, the more efficient I can be, the more cars I can get in and out. And I guess the transparency thing, I don't like misdiagnosing something.
Right.
So, some of the training out of, the classroom training that I do, is like, I don't know if you heard of Scanner Danner,
Mhm.
Paul
Yeah.
Danner,
Yep.
but I signed up a few years ago for his monthly program. And, I watched as many videos as I could. I think, diagnostic wise, that's huge. I did take a service advisor training, which helped me out a lot with efficiency for, tech metric, but also how to talk to people, what kind of jobs to sell. One of the big things was at that class that I learned was getting, and Paul Danner actually talks about a lot too, is getting like a retainer for diagnosing. Because I caught myself say I'd tell them, an hour diagnosis, right? So then that hour would be up and I'd call the customer and say, hey, this is where we're at. Oh, well, maybe do you think we should replace this part? And I'd sell them on another hour of diagnostics. Well, or if they say they didn't want the second hour, I would want to figure it out. So then I would just, go do it on my own and not even charge for it. Where after listening to Paul and that service advisor training, to get that $500 diagnostic retainer helped me out a lot. That way, you get it authorized for that $500. If, it takes you 10 minutes, sometimes it's a fuse, right?
Right. Yeah.
You find that fuse in 5 minutes, you don't charge them $500, obviously, but sometimes you get to that point where you're, 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours in, you figure it out. But if I would have kept calling the customer, I might not have, figured that out because I'd have to break that diag up in three different jobs. So that's helped me out a lot. As far as, staying on one job, by myself, sometimes I will get kind of scatterbrained and jump from thing to thing, but that retainer was huge and I learned that at training. But yeah, I don't know if you're working on the newer cars, I don't know how someone could even come out of like, technical institute, how you could succeed without doing continued training.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Really big. Yeah.
Was that your first time at ATE last year?
That was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back again this year?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
definitely gonna go back.
Well, I'll see you there.
Yeah, good.
I'll see
Yeah, I'm
you
trying to
there.
recruit the technician that I want. I'm 36. I kind of want a younger tech, someone, essentially you're hanging out with them all day, but I want
Right.
someone with the same mindset as far as want to elevate their training. So that's one of the things I advertised was paid, full paid continued training. So it would be nice instead of going by myself down to those, ATE to, have a tech that wants to go and learn, maybe take separate classes, teach each other something.
Yeah. The divide and conquer. Yeah. You guys decide what classes to take before you go and then
Yeah.
just confer with each other. Yeah. Afterwards. Yep. So, so, how do you think that shops should be preparing for the next wave of automotive innovation? Or here, here's another question. Where do you think it's going? Because they've been selling us this EV thing. Just I know it's all conjecture and guesswork, but
Yeah.
where do you think we're going?
It's hard to say where we're going. You see one side and the other. There have been a couple of my friends that work at, one works at a company called PACCAR up here, and I think they own Kenworth or Kenmore and Peterbilt, maybe. I don't know, but they work on big trucks, and
Big
he's
ones,
kind
right?
of
Yeah,
mentioned to me a couple times, have you looked into, a good buddy of mine, he was a BMW tech for, I don't know, 10 years. And he was telling me, like, have you looked into this? You could be the first one on island to do this training, and then you could get all these leads. And I haven't jumped into it really at all. There's still
right.
so much for me to learn with what's going on now. Um, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have too much time to really go. I mean, I researched a little bit. There's a couple EVs that I work on, but really not that much. Like I've done like some lift kits on like Teslas and
Lift kits on Teslas.
I did one of them for a local guy, and then I
Right.
started having I think I've done probably five. And there's people all over the state of Washington. They're on this some type of forum, and they found out that I did it. So then there was people coming that I mean, yeah. But besides that, just brakes and normal stuff. I haven't done too much. I haven't really looked into it. Um, if it comes down to, they say, they always say like, oh, in 5 years, oh, in 5 years, oh, in 10 years. Well, I might have to get into some training if it does come, but at
Sure.
this time, I'm still mainly studying internal combustion and
Right.
as the new BMWs, they come out with new stuff every 3 years that it's enough brain power for me to stay up with that than it is to look into EV stuff. But I'm sure it's coming. I just don't know how full-fledged it's gonna hit.
Hmm. So,
I go to a big city and there's way more Teslas and electric vehicles than there are on our island. There's some out here, but not that much.
and that's what I hear consistently. The larger markets in the cities, you see more EVs and hybrids. Are you seeing any hybrids there where you're at?
Yeah, there's a few hybrids. I service some of those i3s, those little funky looking BMWs with the little Rex engine where like it's a little two-cylinder engine that charges the battery. But I mean, not too many. I kind of just try to stay with the BMW stuff,
Yeah.
or European import.
I didn't think that you'd see too many on where you're at. So, any advice that you would give for an auto repair shop owner who's just getting started?
God, there's a couple that have started in town since I've been going, and I just tell them that, the training. I think the training is huge. It's like you get too stretched out with, tool truck debt, which I'm not saying, don't go buy nice tools, but, there's a lot of shops in my area. Everyone talks. So it's like, you do say a timing chain on like a Volvo, and I rarely work on Volvos. Well, there's this another
Okay.
shop that paid $400 for the tool. They're going to let me use it because I'll let them use, so you need to network, one, two, continued training, the efficiency in knowing what how a system works, or how to sell a job, how to sell multiple things in a job is huge when you're starting. But also it took me a long time to um, not get away from lower end cars, but I was the cheapest guy in town for a while. So for whatever, I didn't know at first, but I think, the first like 3 years I was in business, I was doing a head gasket a month, but all the other shops weren't doing. Well, I was underbidding everyone by probably $800. I don't know.
Oh, so
So that's another thing. There are people that jump around to shops to find the deals, and not that I don't work on their stuff, but I like, making a relationship, which I would advise a new shop owner, make a good relationship with every client. Treat them right. You got to be transparent, but as far as efficiency, continued training and networking I've found is really big. Having the coolest toolbox full of the nicest tools um, doesn't really get you any everywhere. It gets you somewhere, but not everywhere. So I would say what really helped me out is keeping my overhead very minimal. That way, if you know, my rule was if I had to borrow something twice, the third time I would buy it, and if it was something that maybe I didn't use all the time, I might buy a cheaper brand. But yeah, I would say not to get too extended in debt off the bat before you get continue, I guess steady work,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But that 5 star, I I was trying to look up the guy I did that service advisor training with. I've drawn a blank to his name. Really good guy. And he would always talk about the 5 star experience. When a customer leaves, to make sure, before they leave, like, you hit them with the 5 star experience. Like, and I don't do it every time, but um, is there anything I could have done to make this service, better for you,
Better.
right?
Sure.
And especially when you're just getting started. I was a people pleaser. I've always been, but I didn't know how to read people as well as I do now. Now I can read people when they come in. Sometimes as a shop owner, especially being a one man shop like I am, someone comes in with their car and say it's a 15-year-old BMW, right? And it's been neglected, and they bought it from the fourth owner who neglected it, and they're the fifth owner. And sometimes you got to be the counselor or the shrink and tell them, like, we can do $2,000 worth of work on this cooling system right now, but you're probably going to have to do another $2,000 worth of work by the end of the year. And that instead of selling them all the work and then them, telling everyone, oh man, this guy just did all, $7,000 worth of work on my car and it's still just a piece of junk. Well, if you told them up front, hey, this is what we have to do. This is how many problems you have. And you don't look at it like job to job, I'm trying to think what podcast I was listening to, but it's like you can shear a sheep many times, but you can only butcher it once, right?
Right.
So,
Right. Okay. Yep.
you don't want to get rich off every single job. And I see there was one shop that just recently is going out of business that I was trying to, kind of stray in the right direction. And it seemed like the stories I was told, and heard around town, whatever, seemed like he was trying to butcher every single sheep that came through there. And,
Right.
that's not how you build a client base because in a small town, one person, you treat them right, fix their car, their aunt's car is going to break down in 3 weeks. And then at Thanksgiving dinner, they asked, oh, yeah, who do you go through? Oh, I got this great guy. He's honest, this and that, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't upsell you on stuff you don't. And then the domino effect or the
Sure.
snowball just keeps growing. And that's, being in a small town, I think it's a little bit different than a large town because I think some of the bigger towns, get a lot of people driving through and they can maybe get rich off that one person and then never see him again and it doesn't really affect them. But as a small town business, I would highly advise, um, yeah, just, honesty in what the car needs. You're going to tell them everything the car, needs is one thing, but you're upselling them on brake pads and they still got 6 millimeters left on them. It's kind of it. That maybe their uncle comes over and you just told them that they need a brake job and they look at the pads and they're like, actually, you don't. And
Right.
then that'll circle around too. So
Sure. Well, the fact that the guy's going out of business is all
yeah.
you reap what you sow. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
he's a good guy. It does take, a certain person. I have seen texts that get out because I kind of came in unorthodox. How I never even worked under anyone. I'm sure it happens, but in comparison, most of the shop owners in town either like, their dad owned a repair shop
right.
or they were a service writer at a dealership or something like that. But
And they
so I
have
might have a different way of coming across to people, but.
mhm.
It's worked for me. Like I said, I kind of I stayed really low overhead and I've been saving. So this shop expansion is kind of going to be a an eye opener for me to because I'm gonna hire at least two techs because I have a two bay shop now and I'm adding three, so I'm gonna have five lifts. Technically there'll be six bays, but there'll be five lifts, which will be really good, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, it's hard to tell someone to take it slow, but it worked for me. Just doing the quality over quantity.
Right. Yeah.
So that with transparency with your customers, training. Like I said, I wish I had more time to do more training. I haven't been able. I was doing like those World Pack lunchtime
Mhm.
free trainings like almost every day when I had a full-time tech, and I would tell him, I'll pay you 30 minutes if you want to come sit in. If you want to come sit in and watch this with me. And sometimes, oh yeah, yeah, it's like, oh, this one's in I don't know, misfire diagnosis or O2 sensor diagnosis or multimeter, whatever. And if it caught their attention, they'd come watch it with me. But,
Mhm.
you learn one thing in a video like that, and it could, save you 15 hours worth of work for the whole year.
Sure. Yeah. Anyway, I was my last question was about finances, and you've kind of already given me that answer. Be careful, especially in the beginning. I did a podcast earlier in the week, and he gave the same advice. Don't get too far in debt on the tools and things like that because he had made that mistake. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he had seen other people make that same mistake, and it wasn't imperative. The marketing, the website, the getting making sure you take care of the customers and you get good reviews. That was the stuff that was the really important stuff that moved them forward.
Yeah.
Saving a small portion of each job and putting it away. So they've got something for marketing and stuff down the road. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
That 3 to 5% you put away is huge. I
right,
mean, that for whatever you need it for. But to go back on the tool truck thing, it's like, every tool is different. If you don't, my I guess thought process of it is if I don't need the tool, it shouldn't be financed. If you need the tool today, and you don't have the money, yeah, you can finance it, but if it's something you might not use for 6 months, why are you going to finance it and pay a payment on it? And then say you have a slow month and then you're ordering parts and then all of a sudden you don't have enough money to order parts. I think that's what happened to that local guy is he couldn't pay his parts supplier bills, but he has, a bunch of cool tools and stuff. It's like that doesn't benefit you if you can't buy the parts to fix the cars, right?
right, yeah,
Because then your tools aren't coming out of the box.
yeah. So, and I do have one last question. Work-life integration. So, family, you had started. Any advice for any shop owner? Because, I see the picture behind you of I guess that's your,
Oh yeah, my little guy. Yeah, he's
yeah.
downstairs. He actually has the day off today. It's
Oh,
a
does it? Oh, okay,
teacher
cool.
teacher teacher faculty day.
Oh, okay, all right. So, any advice, quick advice for any shop owners, on the work-life integration to make sure that you know, the kids know what your name is and
Oh yeah. Yeah, right.
yeah,
I mean, luckily for me, my shop is on my own property, so
property.
it's
Awesome.
yeah, it's very close to my house. So
Great.
I make it work. I go down to the shop early before my wife and kid wake up. I usually spend a couple hours. That's like my prep time, coffee prep
Mhm.
time. Come up, get my kid ready for school. Once my wife takes him to school, then it's, full blown. But yeah, that's to get my mind off of cars. It's one thing. I walk out of my front door and I can see all the jobs I have to do,
Right.
which, is job security, but at the same time, it can be stressful, but it's my kid's 7. He's only going to be 7 once. I try, and it goes back to a transparency thing. I don't overload my schedule. My dad coached me in sports. Like I said, I went to college to play baseball. My kid likes sports, so I try to coach as many teams as I can where um, it's just peace of mind. There's
Sure.
times where there's been a couple seasons where I just knew I was so overloaded, I wasn't gonna be able to coach. So then I signed up to be, say, a assistant coach. Told the head coach, hey, I might be here every single Tuesday, Thursday, but I might be late a couple, whatever. But um, most of your customers have a family, and you can only do as much as you can do. So you just tell the customer, like, yeah, if your car's broke down, and then say they're a single car family, I have gone back down to the shop after my kid and wife had passed out and worked on a car till 3 in the morning to get it to the customer, and
Hmm.
but I try my best to keep work at work. My wife owns her own salon.
Oh, does he? Okay.
So we're both self-employed. So she's the one that pushed me into starting my own business. Well, I guess I was self-employed being a fisherman, but I didn't have a
Yeah.
boat.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so luckily my wife's been great, understanding, and she had started her business before me, so she gave me some pointers. But we do a lot of trade-off stuff. So like today, for example, my son doesn't have school, so my wife's working a half day. I went to the shop this morning from 6 to 8:30 or something, and then help get my breakfast for my kid, and then she's going to work, and then we're going to switch off about 1:30. I'm going to work the afternoon.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean a trade-off, and like I say, that's different than most people do it too, but it works for us. So you kind of just your at-home life is, your family's got to be number one. And if you tell your clients that, most of them feel the same way. You
Sure.
just have to, you just, and boundaries, set your boundaries. Don't let, people cross them. There are customers that, they're tow their car out to my house. They'll come knock on my front door at 9:30 at night, and it's like, yeah, answer it. And it's like, I might be kind of dry, but it's like, yeah, put your key in the drop box. I'll get to it in the morning, and they're kind of looking at you like, oh, well, you're not going to come down right now and plug your little special, computer into it and tell me what's wrong with it. I'm eating popcorn, watching a movie with family.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
So yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah. So being on site and people knowing you there, yeah, that could be a little more. That could be a little more challenging.
yeah. There's only a couple of them that did that, and then I just had to have a conversation with them, tell them,
Right
it's
away. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, but like, I mean, family's number one. That's what you gotta put that. And because if you don't have support at home, and say you're stressed out with not being able to spend time with your kids or your wife, you're gonna think about that all day at work, and then you might forget to torque lug bolts down or something. I don't know, but
Right.
I think about it, if I'm level-headed when I um leave my house to go to work every day, it's a lot better, peace of mind and level-headedness when I get home from work.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, Josh, I really appreciate your time today. So, it was great hearing your experience. So we have all types of different owners from different areas, and it's cool to hear from somebody,
Yeah.
in a smaller community on an island out there in Washington. And
For additional automotive resources and exclusive content, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all our episodes. Thanks again for joining us in the driver's seat, and we'll see you next time for another thrilling episode of Top Shot.